This is just how my day is going. I don't give a shittily shit, fucking shit. Fuck. Shit and fuck. We're gonna take a fucking look at how long it took. I haven't even done a search yet, but we're gonna take a look at how long it took this country to establish rights for handicapped people. Just to have them come and fucking have some fucking motherfucker come and fucking ruin it all for you. Act like the biggest fucking racist cocksucker that ever lived in the world right here. Biggest, most evil cocksucker in the fucking world. Obama to meet with McConnell in Supreme Court standoff. And I used to have this guy McConnell's back, but now they're gonna go and meet up with him so that he can get his climate deal going for America, so that we can destroy America even more. Forget all the rights for the handicapped people. Let's look that up now. For this cock sucking dick fucking idiot black fucking bastard, or whatever the fuck you want to call this fucking motherfucker. Enemy. He's a fucking terrorist. He's an anti fucking American terrorist fucking motherfucker, and that's what you get. You fucking vote for him based on fucking lies and bullshit. So let's see how long it took to fucking establish handicap rights for handicapped people before this fucking dick fucking sucker comes along and ruins it all for everybody. People with cancer, people with mental disabilities, mental illness, fucking a limp when you walk, fucking anything. Anything wrong with you. This guy is basically set with a fucking communist, sadistic fucking. He kills people, and he's been killing people the whole entire time he's been in there. Let's kill anybody with any brains, with any fucking common sense, and we'll tell them they're a bunch of fucking conservative, fucking constitutionalist, fucking constitutards. You know, that's what the liberals are trying to basically say, because I stand up for my own constitutional fucking rights. That I'm a fucking constitutional tard. Is that right? That's how you are explaining to me and to the world fucking what an idiot I am, because I want to protect my own fucking rights and my own freedom. So how long take America establish for the handicap? For the handicap. Handicap. It says the History of Americans with Disabilities Act. It says 1990. It's looking like the 90s to me. The history of the American Americans with Disabilities Act (ADA) did not begin until on July 26, 1990, at a singing ceremony at the White House. It did not begin in 1988, when the first ADA was introduced by Congress in Congress. The ADA story begins a long time ago in cities and towns throughout the United States, when people with disabilities began to challenge, what is that? Societal barriers. More like burials, huh? Yeah, because they're just burying handicapped people. Smack them, or whatever the fuck you fucks do with handicapped people. Fucking morbid motherfuckers. Of or related to society or social relations. Barriers that excluded them from their communities. Hold on, I have to stop right here. Can I tell you something? Based on the facts and everything else given, can I tell you that I believe, from my own personal experiences, that it is worse for somebody with a disability to cop clean and tell a business that they are disabled or something, because they don't use that to benefit the business and the person. They use that to try to benefit the person, with the scope of the government looking down on each individual business, so the government can sue them and take funds or whatever else and sue their ass for hiring a handicapped person now, basically. So um, In my opinion, it's more harmful to come clean and say anything to anybody about any of it because then they don't want anything to do with you. So that right there is a red flag that ADA basically didn't do anything for me or anything that I know of that's beneficial to clowns like myself. It begins with the establishment of the independent living movement, which challenges the notion that people with disabilities needed to be institutionalized. And that's been basically what I've been dealing with my whole entire time with them and everybody else. All they want is conviction time, they want court time, they need to address what an evil person, this mentally ill or handicapped autistic person or whatever the fuck you want to fucking call me or anybody else with my problems. Let's insta fucking institutionalize these motherfuckers. When they're doing good. I just said in the last video I was volunteer. I was going to college full time. I had a 3.5 grade point average and was being pursued by a bully who I um, just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time to stand up to this fucker. So he came after me and stalked me for 3 years for me getting in his face over a woman, his woman that he was abusing. And that's the truth. And that's really the fucking root of my mess of how I got fucking stalked while I was going to college. I had fucking plans. I wanted to go to the Center for Disease Control. I didn't know how I was gonna get a fucking master. It's not a master's. You need a fucking doctorate. You need a doctorate in order to get in there. But I could do work understudy and a lot of other things I could have done to work up to my doctorates to be a full fledged CDC uh, person. That's that was my goal back then in 2001 when I went back to school. That's what I wanted to do. That and I was also really wanting to join the military because I believe in George Bush and what he basically established our war with our enemies there. I believe they truly are enemies, and you say that you're a backstabbing con artist, conning for something worse than you think, conning other people here in America for America's enemies. If you say George Bush is a war criminal, so George Bush is a war criminal, but terrorists who fucking want to elude the fact that they're the real murderers who killed people on 9/11. That we're war criminals because we went after them, after our enemies. So I don't even want to fucking argue if anybody George Bush or his fucking 8 years in office. The only thing I really have a problem with George Bush is the banks, bailing them fuckers out, and not fucking proven enough to all these dumb fucking idiots out here that want to act like going into Iraq was the wrong thing. Okay, you know what's the wrong thing? The UN, the United Nations, not taking Saddam out. The United Nations should have at least put um, some kind of way where they could had uh, secretly shot Saddam Hussein and killed his ass and just killed him for the things that he did. He killed up to a total of 1 million people while he was a dictator. So, so we're war criminals because we went and invaded Iraq and took Saddam out, a guy who killed 1 million people while he was reigning terror. I call Saddam a super terrorist. So, really, I'd like to reserve the right to, even if I got convicted for it, punch you in your face. If I hear you I'm around and I hear you say something like George Bush is a fucking some kind of spy for our fucking terrorist enemy, I'll punch you right in the face. And I'll be like, he said George Bush was a war criminal. And I'm sorry, I can't put up with that. Temporarily temporarily losing it or whatever. I would absolutely fucking go ballistic on somebody in person. So I'm sitting there reading people's comments saying bullshit like that or hearing it, and without being able to say something back at the person, it's quite frustrating. So, anyways, continuing with their story here, this says disability rights movement. Disability rights movement. People who have worked for years organizing and attending protests, licking envelopes, sending out alerts, drafting legislation, speaking, testifying, negotiating, lobbying, filing lawsuits, being arrested, doing whatever they could for a cause they believe in. There are far too many people whose commitment and hard work contributed to the passage of this historic piece of disability civil rights legislation to be able to give appropriate credit by name. Work without the work of so many, without the disability rights movement, there would be no ADA. No, without stupid people in this country, there would be no Democrat Party, and there would be no Democrat Party functioning with a guy from their party in our White House lying to everybody flat out to your face and undoing all of the things that were right and appropriate for people that needed to be have somebody stand up for them and protect them. Now they're left now they're left defenseless because of stupid idiot morons who vote for a Democrat here. And now the establishment Republicans look just as distasteful and just as uncharming as Obama himself. The disability rights movement over the last couple of decades has made the injustices faced by people with disabilities visible to the American public and to politicians. This requires reversing the centuries long history of out of sight, out of mind that the segregation of disabled people serve to promote. That's why I'm like, when I think about black people and other people trying to push whatever, I wish that they could have walked a mile in my shoes in some of my most hardest times that I had. I wish that they really could. And then let's see what they have to bitch about. See what they say. The disability rights movement adopted many of the strategies of the civil rights movement before, like the African Americans, who, speaking of which, who sat in at segregated lunch counters and refused to move to the back of the bus. People with disabilities sat in federal buildings, obstructed the movement of inaccessible buses, and marched through the streets to protest injustice. And like the civil rights movement before it, the disability rights movement sought justice in the courts and in the halls of Congress. And they had to do that because Congress and the courts and everybody else in public would not do that on their own. Not in a million years. They'd still be looking at handicapped people like, your table's over there. Shh. I don't want to. I don't want to hear it. You keep your hand down. When you're in a classroom of normal people, you keep your hand down whenever other people need to ask questions. Let the people that are more normal get answered and get helped, and you just sit there. You don't. Shh. Oh, you want to ask a question? Go to timeout. You go to timeout right now. This is some of the shit that they pulled on me. I'd sit there with my arm up so long that it would be wore out from sitting there holding my arm up. And then when I'd say, "Hey, my arm about to fall off here," they'd say, "Oh, you spoke, Mister. Nobody addressed you. while they had 3 to 4 adults going all around the room in a classroom, hating everybody in the whole place and ignoring what I had to say, and then making an example of me every time. You go to timeout. You go. So you don't. So you want the hostilities that I hold to just go away and vanish, and me to just forget about all you fucking cocksuckers and the way you treated me and other people, locking me up in a fucking closet, in a little tiny closet, and shutting the light off. That's some of the horrific tortures that I've been through my own self. And then to have them use everything that they, like the court did, to get me convicted of a felony. These people got me convicted with my parents and with public and everybody else. Oh no, this is a troubled child. I wonder, did you guys wish that maybe you could just get rid of me somehow? Not put me in an institution where other people or paid employees have to take care of me or mistreat me or whatever they do, but actually murder my ass and get rid of me. So, you want to know where all the hostilities are coming from, or are you kind of getting an idea of why I have built-in hostilities that I maintain? I shut down, I bring them out, I keep them calm, I get them excited. It's just the way y'all treated me. Okay, for the first time, the exclusion of the segregation of people with disabilities was viewed as discrimination. Previously, it had been assumed that the problems faced by people with disabilities, such as unemployment and lack of education, were inevitable, meaning like that it's unavoidable. Pretty sure consequences of the physical or mental limitations imposed by the disability itself. En- Enactment of Section 504 evidenced Congress, what is it? Evidence Congress recognition that the inferior social and economic status of people with disabilities was not a consequence of the disability itself, but instead was a result of societal barriers and prejudices. Well, you don't fucking say. Holy shit. Okay, so, I could be sitting here fucking drinking a cup of coffee all calm and just fucking relax right now, but I'm not. As with as with racial minorities and women, Congress recognized that legislation was necessary to eradicate discriminatory policies and practices. So, these guys, they want to bring me up against like a board so that the government can tell me that I'm not who I am or what happened to me anymore. So, um, they're going to say, they're going to ask me questions. And even though I sit there and I tell them, yo, that is one of the hardest things for me to explain, I'm not going to be able to do it without basically, really getting upset and really just breaking down. I won't be able to get through it. But they want to ask me to go ahead and, tell us some of those things or beat around that. And they know that there's a lot of scar. There's a huge scar there, but the scars are deep, and they want to go ahead and have some sick ass bastard come from the government and paint over me like there's no scar there. There's nothing there. So you tell me how ADA is working, you know. So let's start this one out. Section 504 was also historic because for the first time, people with disabilities were viewed as a class, a minority group. Previously, public policy, maybe we're a majority now, so they don't have to worry about us. Anyways, public policy had been characterized by addressing the needs of particular disabilities by category based on diagnosis. Each disability group was seen as separate with different needs. Section 504 recognizes that while there are major physical and mental variations and different disabilities, people with disabilities as a group face similar discriminations in employment, education, and access to society. People with disabilities were seen as a legitimate minority subject to discrimination and deserving a, of basic civil rights protections. This class status concept has been critical in the development of the movement of advocacy efforts. The coalition of people with disabilities has been constantly put to the test by attempts to remove protections for particular groups. The history of the ADA is a testament to the movement commitment movement's commitment to solidarity among people with different disabilities. Now, I'm going to stop right here. One of my opinions is I believe that they should give disabled people with all these problems all the benefits in the world. Uh, Give them their Social Security disability. Let them go work and maintain a job if they can too, and let them keep all of it and don't tax them. Don't tax them and don't allow Congress to go there and now all after all this tell me, oh well, you're not allowed to make over $65,000 a year. If you do, we're going to take the money from your bank account. Like they're not going to go ahead and take anybody, doesn't matter what situation they're in. They're going to take those people's money from them anyway because they're all corrupt, greedy establishment people, and I see it. They're all the same. They really are. Coming out there endorsing Obama and shaking his hand, making deals with him after we said no. We don't want refugees coming here. Why are refugees coming here? Why aren't they safe in their own country? Oh, because we have a piece of shit, low down, dirty Democrat in the White House who hates the military. Who, well, actually, if it's the U.S. military, hates our operations, hates getting dictators out of power in places, and unless he reinforces the removal by adding something totally worse and more scumbag than the last dictator that he removed out of there, instead of giving them a right to operate and function in a democracy and to elevate good people up. He wants to promote darkness and evil. So it's just I wasn't born fucking yesterday, you know? He's been in there for 7 fucking years, you know? You think that he's America's hero? You know, still after all this, they're gonna tax us. His last stimulus goes after people's all our retirements and stuff. I mean, it goes after us hard to pay banks back for doing bad deals. So it's like the government's telling banks to purposely make shabby deals with people just so that they can fuck society, just so they can fuck every one of us. Bend over, take it, take this big ass government cock in your ass because that's what you get, you know, every time. And now my other part that I think is I think that the laws should ought to stand up for people's businesses. If they man up and they hire a disabled person, doesn't matter who, that they have more rights for that established business to maintain better and to have protections for them as a person who is willing to hire somebody like that. Instead of giving all the power to the government, give the power to the people. The people need the power. And the stupid people out here voting that get up, they want to go and vote right away for this Democrat and don't even know what the fuck they're talking about, are voting against their own self and not what I just said. So, anyways, we'll continue here. That's just my opinion. I think businesses should ought to have rights, and they should ought to have the right to be able to muscle the government, even if they have to, or whoever. If if they hire a handicapped person, they should ought to be make it so that they want to hire disabled people, not want to be like, oh, he's disabled. Let's who next? You know, that's the way it's been going now. After after Section 504 established the fundamental civil right of non-discrimination in 1973, the next step was to define what non-discrimination meant in the context of disability. How was it the same or different from race and sex discrimination? The Department of Health, Education, and Welfare had been given the task of pro what is that promulgating promulgating promote or make widely known, put into effect by official proclamation regulations to implement Section 504, which would serve as guidelines for all other federal agencies. These regulations became the focus of attention for the disability rights movement for the next 4 years. During this time, the movement grew in sophistication, skill, and visibility. The first task was to assure that the regulation provided meaningful anti discrimination protections. It was not enough to remove policy barriers, it was imperative that the regulations mandated affirmative conduct to remove architectural and communication barriers and provide accommodations. The second step was to force a what is that? Recalcitrant huh, meaning recalcitrant. Having in what is this? I got an itch in my back. Stanley uncooperative attitude towards authority or discipline. Person with an obstinately uncooperative attitude. Yeah, that's me. Not all the way. I just don't like people bamboozling other people and getting away with it and murdering people too and getting away with it. If I murdered somebody, I guarantee you I would not be getting away with it. If I was in a Democrat party and I was satanic, maybe agencies to get regulations out. All over the country, people with disabilities sat in at WHO buildings. The longest sit in was in San Francisco, lasting 28 days. A lawsuit was filed, hearings before Congress was organized, testimony was delivered to congressional committees, negotiations were held, letters were written. The disability community mobilized a successful campaign using a variety of strategies. On May 4th, 1977, that's when I was born, the Section 504 regulations were issued. It is these regulations which form the basis of the ADA. In the early 1980s, the disability community was called upon to defund the hard fought for Section 504 regulations from attack. After attacking, I would love to see who actually faced off against them and attacked these people from trying to pass disability act of disabilities. for people with disabilities, a law for them, for rights. When they were actually really the most discriminated people that I'd ever seen, because I've never seen anybody ever. I know that what they did to the Indians, I know what they did to the black people, but people don't realize real to real exactly what they did to handicapped people, and they let them shit on themselves. They left them unattended. Um, they let them sit there in their own feces, you know, uh, or whatever, naked. At times it was a horror story. It wasn't just like a true life saga where they were really being abusive and being mean to people, like what they did to the blacks and the Indians, but they were actually put handicapped people, these people that were disabled, in a hellhole, and in a torturous, horrifying, um, horrific scenario where it was like a nightmare. Living in a nightmare is what it is. So, um, in the early 1980s, the disability community was called upon to defend. I'm reading this over here a little bit because I want to see. I want to try to reread that and see if I can understand who fought against these people. In the early 1980s, the disability community was called upon to defend the hard fought for Section 504 regulations from attack. After taking office, President Reagan established the Task Force on Regulatory Relief under the leadership of then Vice President George Bush. The mission of the task force was to deregulate regulations which were burdensome on businesses. The Section 504 regulations were chosen for deregulation. Sorry. This news sent a current throughout the disability movement across the country. News. This sent this news sent current a current like a ripple effect through the I'm trying to understand this myself throughout the disability movement across the country, which quickly mobilized a multi tier strategy to preserve the regulations. For 2 years, representatives from the disability community met with the administration officials to explain why all of the various deregulations proposals must not be adopted. These high level meetings would not have continued or been successful without the constant bombardment of letters to the White House from people with disabilities and parents of children with disabilities around the country protesting any attempt to deregulate Section 504. After a remarkable show of force and commitment by the disability community, the administration announced a halt to all attempts to deregulate Section 504. This was a tremendous victory for the disability movement. Those 2 years proved to be invaluable in setting the stage for the ADA. Sorry. Not only were the Sections 504 regulations, which form the basis of the ADA, preserved, but it was at this time that high officials of what later became the Bush administration's received an education on the importance of the concepts of non discrimination contained in the Section 504 regulation in the lives of people with disabilities. During much of the 1980s, the disabilities community's efforts in Washington were focused on reinstating civil rights protections which had been stripped away by negative Supreme Court decisions. Can I highlight that? This guy who's anti-handicap people, Obama, is going to appoint another Supreme Court justice temporarily so that he can pass some more medieval stuff against America to harm our country even more. What country in the world harms itself at the level or even a slightly dim little bit of a level that these Democrats have done to our country? In the last 7 years, you've seen it. And you're all, we've all come too well to know exactly what that is. So you hate your own country, and you go vote for a Democrat, you are voting against yourself. And you're not punishing, you're not, what do I say, their rebellion movement. You look at Woodstock and the way that they treated the war in Vietnam, and all acted like, our government was insane for going into Vietnam, and all these Vietnam veterans, they spit on them and slapped them when they came home and stuff. Those people are not protesting against their parents. They're not rebelling against their parents. They're rebelling against their own self in their own country. So how stupid is that, Jane Fonda? Fucking real stupid of you. I bet you her husband, Ted Turner, he's got Fox News. I bet you he voted for Obama twice and is going to go vote for Hillary Clinton. I bet you he's a registered Democrat. And he fakes it all off like, he's maybe conservative because he runs Fox News the way that they do. Okay. I bet he's a big contributor to Obama. Anyways, here we go back. So we're going to put this, not just Supreme Court decision, It's it was protections which had been stripped away by negative Supreme Court decisions. Well, if they didn't really want me to be too familiar with law, maybe they shouldn't have thrown so much law against me and thrown so much shit in my face in my little tiny amount of time I've been alive here on this earth. But because of them doing shit like this, to me personally, okay, I can understand and I feel I can sympathize. Not empathize, I can sympathize with this story right here. With protections which had been stripped away by negative Supreme Court decisions. Can we just do away with the Supreme Court altogether? I think the last guy that wasn't threatened just got himself murdered by the Democrats. I think Roberts was sweated, and I think that he figured out, oh, the Democrats are gonna kill me too. You think I'm kidding? If he hadn't made some of the rulings that he did with the liberals and with the lefties like he did, I guarantee you we would be talking about Robert's death too, not just Scalia's death. All right. So, anyways, the longest legislative battle was fought over the Civil Rights Restoration Act (CRRA), first introduced in 1984 and finally passed in 1988. The CRRA sought to overturn Grove City College v. Belt, a Supreme Court decision that had significantly restricted the reach of all the statutes prohibiting race, ethnic origin, sex, or disability discrimination by recipients of federal funds. Can you believe that? Restricted to reach of all the statutes prohibiting race, ethnic origin, sex, or disability discriminations in recipients of federal funds. Because the court decision affected all of these constitution to constitution sees. I'm thinking that this means address it on a constitutional level. Constitutionese. Constituencies. Okay. Sorry. The effort of overturning the decision requires a coalition effort. For the first time, representatives of the disability community worked in leadership roles with representatives of minority and women's groups on a major piece of civil rights legislation. Working in coalition again, in 1988, the Civil Rights Community armed the Fair Housing Act (FHA) to improve enforcement mechanisms, and for the first time, disability anti-discrimination provisions were included in a traditional civil rights statute banning race discrimination. During these years, working on the CRRA and the FHA alliances were forged within the civil rights community that became critical in the fight for passage of the ADA because of its commitment to disability civil rights. The Leadership Conference on Civil Rights played an important leadership role in securing passage of the ADA. I'm gonna pause right here. I'm gonna going to what do you say Band-Aid? Is that Band-Aid? I'm gonna aid this video or doctor it. I'm gonna doctor this video later. I'm gonna remove this break that I'm gonna take for a second. I'll be right back. something like this. People are allowed to lie to your face and not tell you the truth. I'm going to take a break from this real quick here. I want to look at something. Let's look at how long this thing is. I'm going to be stressing this whole story. I'd like to get through it. Anyways, part of what you all get for going against handicapped people by voting for Obama. Am I done? Handicap disabilities, whitehouse.gov. That's why this administration has worked to stop. work has worked to toughen the protections against. See, that's why I just came in here and said because of what I'm gonna look up here right now. These guys are gonna act like they've been sticking up for handicapped people or something like that. But what does this guy do? He says, "I'm gonna make more gun control, and I'm gonna figure out a way to label all of you guys, all of us guys out here, a way where we're mentally ill or something like that, to where he can just say because of what society did to us or however we became that way, at no fault of our own. You know, we're disabled. We have the government come after us and take our rights, our gun rights, and our freedom of speech and other things like that away from us. And now they're gonna let's hear some of this, some more of this bullshit. Let's look at the time that this shit right here was written up. It doesn't even say. Executive order on increasing federal employment of individuals with disabilities. Let's see. You know, and again, it's more ammo for the government, and for people to be like, well, why in the hell would I hire somebody like that? What a disgrace! What a disgrace! What a disgraceful person! He is such a fucking piece of shit. Dude, you are such a piece of fucking shit. He's such a classic piece of shit. Day one, he's been yeah, you're a fucking piece of shit. Piece, piece of shit. You are a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. Fucking asshole. This thing right here will say it. Published on July 27th, 2015. Wow. So let's see. 2009, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Oh my God. It took him 7 years to address handicapped people after he had went after disabled people in places where they get funds from. They get funds. And he takes the fundraised money and other stuff like that away from people with cancer and other things like that and gives it to himself. He's a piece of shit, is what he is. The president is committed to. I was gonna say it says with the N. I was gonna say narcissism. He's committed to narcissism and being that in society that doesn't value anybody or anything or your civil rights or your liberty or the Constitution. He wants to use that all against 50 million people in this country living with disabilities. Thank you. Kiss my ass. Fuck you, asshole. So, anyways, um, here we are back to the story. It also became clear to the disability community that it should play a very active role in Supreme Court legislation. I'm done. I'm done with that. With you. I do not want to fucking continue reading any of that stuff. They're not gonna help us out. I'll tell you what. Here's the best thing we can do. Let's wait and let's see how it plays out to the next administration, and um, just keep a insightful, um, I would say, ear on everything and take everything with a grain of salt. Don't take one thing that somebody says, me or anybody else, to be like the foundation or the facts or the fact. Look around. If it's that important and you think it's something corny or fishy going on, please investigate it more. So, so it took a few lefties to kill it, to kill the rights of the handicapped. I don't believe any of that stuff. Let's see exactly how it goes. You know, let's see. But thanks, fag ass Obama. You didn't know? You didn't know who I was? You didn't know what I was or anything like that? You're a fucking bastard. Quit fucking with people and go to hell. Go die.